with details on CM Punk's future with AEW and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Revealing what went on behind the scenes at WrestleMania 38, Steve Austin told TMZ Sports. So the show happens. I go out there, stun all those cats. Brock Lesnar gets done with his match, the main event with Roman Reigns. And me and Brock have been wanting to bond together and have a few cocktails to begin with. And he goes, "Hey man, you got anything?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Where we're meeting?" He goes, "My locker room." So it was myself, Brock Lesnar, Larry, one of the trainers who's been there forever, and Pat McAfee. We just passed the bottle around. First, we were drinking out of little cups. Then it just turned into the bottle. We took down a fifth of Maker's Mark in about an hour, and then we all went our separate ways. And I heard that a couple of those guys woke up with severe headaches. But it was a bonding moment, you know, after a big show like that, us four guys. And I just barely met Pat, but he was already one of the boys because of his football background and how everybody in WWE has taken to him. And me and Brock's relationship goes back a long way, as does Larry. So it was a good time, and that was one of my highlights of WrestleMania, a behind the scenes moment that I shared with you. As he botched his two previous Royal Rumble save spots, Kofi Kingston said this about doing this in the future, telling the Going Postal podcast, "This past year in the men's Royal Rumble match, I was like, you know what? Let's make this easy money. This should be simple. You know what I mean? I'll jump to a chair. This is going to be easy, especially after the year before. We just got to get back on the board." And sure enough, when I get knocked off, I came off so hard that when I turned around, I didn't have time to adjust. So I'm like, let me try to adjust in the air. So ironically, if I would have jumped up like I jumped the first year, I might have had a chance to adjust in the air, but this time I jumped out and had no time. So then I was like, and then hit my head on the table and everything. Just get me out of here, man. Get me the hell out of here. It's over. It's done. I've been in that position for so long that I try to think about things to do, and it's almost like reiterations of the older ones or trying to one up the older ones. Then I'm thinking like, man, well, risk reward. Is this worth it to try it and not do it? Or maybe that's the deal. Maybe that's what I do now, is like try it and then fail at it for the next 12 years and then have so I don't know. I'm on the fence about where it's going to go, but there's part of me too that wants to be like, oh no, F you. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Yeah, I can't go out like that. Can't go out like that. That can't be the last one, but I don't know. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. Giving an update on the AEW video game, Sean Ross Sapp said, after years of speculation and a few moved, tentatively planned release dates, Fightful Select has learned that as of today, the AEW Fight Forever release date is scheduled for June 27th. Mike Straw accurately reported recently that he heard the date would be around the AEW x NJPW Forbidden Door show. Fightful has heard from several retailers that were told a late June release before confirming June 27th. We've been told that AEW does hold rights to the engine, so a future game release with it is possible. The working plan was for the Ukes title to be a one-off with constant updates. Those we've heard from that have worked on the game say that it plays very smoothly and resembles WWF No Mercy in that sense. There are some limitations with the Create a Wrestler, and there weren't plans for a community creations that we heard of the last time we'd asked. An official announcement about AEW Fight Forever would be coming over the next week. On his Something to Wrestle With podcast, Bruce Pritchard recalled Vince McMahon issuing a fine to Vader, who got angry during an interview in Kuwait over being asked if pro wrestling was real or not, and flipped a table and grabbed the interviewer by the tie. Vader ended up on house arrest over this. As Pritchard added, Vader was fined the largest fine we'd ever fined anyone up until that point, $30,000, and expenses of staying over there and security and everything, and getting them out and all that. Talking about refusing to take a chair shot on Jimmy Kimmel Live, Mick Foley revealed on his podcast, I can't think of one. Yeah, I cannot think of one. For example, I'll give an example of something that I did say no to so people know, so it's not just a blank check, is that when I was co-hosting the Jimmy Kimmel show, they had gimmicked steel chairs. And I said, what about the rim of the chair? What about that, you know? And they were like, oh. I said, yeah, if he misses me, it's gonna split my head wide open. And he's got no history whatsoever in using it. Not talking about Jimmy. Jimmy wasn't gonna hit me. So I said no to a chair shot, even though it was a gimmick chair, because I was afraid, you know, I had no biases. What if he misses? And I thought there was a good chance he would miss, and the lip of the chair, 27 stitches against Terry Funk, that opened me like a can of sardines. Mentioning an interaction he had with the former head of talent relations for WWE, Marty Gardner told Cheap Pete, John Laurinaitis said, well, I don't want to ever see you again. If you come to a show, I'll have you arrested. I said, Johnny, I'm just trying to get a job. That was back when I used to curse all the time. I don't curse anymore. He goes, now you're cursing at a senior official of WWE. I said, Johnny, I'm not cursing at you. I'm cursing about the situation. Speaking about his sons expressing interest in going to WWE, Devon Dudley told Insight with Chris Van Vliet, they're doing their thing. They're doing their thing. They're still doing dark in AEW. They're having a good time. I'd rather them be with AEW right now than probably go to NXT or WWE. In my opinion, there's so much going on over there right now that I just feel like they might get lost in the shuffle somewhere. You know, there's so much disarray because no one knows what's going on. Is Vince back? Is he not back? Is Triple H in control? Is he not in control? I don't think anybody knows except for the people that are working within the company. Talking about a retirement match in the future, AJ Styles, who was set to face Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title at Night of Champions, told Inside the Ropes, I've got one in mind, the way I'd like to retire. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't know exactly who it would be. I got in my mind who it should be, but we'll see what happens. With it announced that Andrade will be a part of AEW's new show on Saturday, Dave Meltzer said this about him returning on Wrestling Observer newsletter. He could be ready by the launch of the show, and if not, would be ready within a month or so after the launch. Saying this about Bray Wyatt's WWE status and a potential return to the company for Alexa Bliss, Dave Meltzer said in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Wyatt is no longer listed on the internal roster for the company. What that means is hard to say. Wyatt was ill when he disappeared, and they continued to hint at him being there, but the issues with creative talked about at the time were legit. A key is Bliss. If Bliss comes back with no hints toward Wyatt, then I'd say they've given up on Wyatt coming back anytime soon. Responding to a claim that the AEW locker room accepted Thunder Rosa's apology, Saraya wrote, no, I didn't say they accepted it, not at any point. This is BS. That's absolutely up to them. I said she apologized, and this was all before my time there, so I don't know the deal. Dirt sheets being dirt sheets. I did say the locker room is awesome though, and I love being a part of it. Touching on the aftermath of his match from WWE Backlash, Bad Bunny told New Music Daily, wow, that was insane. That was really crazy. The people, the energy was another level. What happened that night, I'm never going to forget it. I remember I said before the WrestleMania fight that day was one of my favorite moments of my life, but the Backlash fight in Puerto Rico was another level. It was really one of the biggest and best moments of my life. I really enjoyed that fight. I suffered. Yeah, I got hurt. My back, my whole body, bro, my whole body. I felt that I was going to die after that match. I really thought that I was going to die after the match, but it's part of it. I was prepared then, and now I'm going to drop a song. I know, I'm a crazy guy. I love it, and that's what matters. Explaining the backstage reaction to the CM Punk situation, Dave Meltzer said on Wrestling Observer Radio, he's a draw, you know, the big picture money is there, so I understand the attempt. I know a lot of talent did not, or didn't, or just felt that it shouldn't have happened. What happened should disqualify him. Staying on the topic of CM Punk, Dave Meltzer noted how the controversy surrounding him hurt AEW All Access. That was the goal. The problem with All Access was because of the legal situation. You watch that and you're watching All Access, and I mean, some of the stuff with Britt Baker we got, it's like, okay, this happened. One of the big focal things was the Young Bucks. Like, why were you gone? What's the story? Why were you considering not coming back? It's all these things, but nothing was explained. It had an opportunity to be something, but lawyers were involved. If there were no lawyers involved, things would be different, but there are. On his Strictly Business podcast, former WCW President Eric Bischoff touched on CM Punk potentially not returning to AEW over the company not wanting to bring back Ace Steel backstage for Collision. Unfortunately, Tony Khan will find a way to allow this to continue, and Punk will be back, which will be a big mistake. Who is Ace Steel anyway? Just because he's a confidant of CM Punk's? Why is he allowed to jeopardize the network premiere of a brand new show? Are you kidding me? People say I'm just being negative when I refer to the dysfunction within the infrastructure and the business side of AEW. But this is a good example. They bring him back and make him the focal point of an entirely new show, but he decides to wet the bed because his confidant isn't allowed at the venue. Who cares? Let Punk pay him. He's making $5 million a year or more than that. Let Punk pay him. All these hardcore wrestling fans and Punk himself is so anti-Hogan because they think he's selfish and whatnot. Punk's worse. When it comes to the upcoming debut episode of AEW Collision, PW Insider said this about CM Punk being there for the premiere. If the company and CM Punk get everything back on track, that's still the plan. If not, they will look to have the first episode elsewhere. With only 3 weeks to fill a venue as of Wednesday, my guess is they would not chance having it in Chicago without Punk, because everyone will expect him to appear and assume the entire situation is some sort of work, which as of this week, it was not. So perhaps Jacksonville, Florida at Daly's Place could, and this is speculation on my part, make the most sense. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.